Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode. We finally realized that it's episode 118. Today, Dave and I catch up on life because we haven't spoken in what seems like 900 years. So we catch up on life and everything that's going on. Dave talks about his adventures to Palm Springs and why he doesn't like leaving the house for any more than 5 days. Catch up with work and everything that's going on. Then we get into rep ranges, a new training block that I'm going to move into and why it's not for everybody. Training to failure, what that means, intensity, and why training and exercise movements are a learned skill. Plenty of conversations around how fucked up the food system is in the US, and some other information around Dave's continued experiment. Enjoy. You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording of myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. Yo, welcome back to... I have absolutely no idea what episode we're on.
No
of Hacking Your Health Podcast with Ben and Dave.
What's up,
everybody? I can't remember even the last time we recorded a podcast. I'm so out of the loop because we've been so ahead of schedule. I'm like, I don't really even know. Like, I know there's one good to go for tomorrow, so like we're not like on the wire. I think being prepared doesn't really work for us, to be honest. But here we are on episode whatever number it is.
Yeah, it's well, last week I was traveling to the Entrepreneur of the Event year award ceremony with my wife in Palm Springs, and so we didn't get to do our podcast last week. And then I think we did it early the week before, so it's been like some time. That
no, what happened was we had the pre-recorded Belfast one give us we're now one ahead of time, so it's afforded us some weeks to be ahead of time, but it's really throwing me off because I've absolutely no idea. Like, there's a podcast going out tomorrow that we recorded maybe 3 weeks ago, and I have no idea what we spoke about.
Well, we're doing good on that. We're doing good on that. But the it's been a good time. The Palm Springs event was awesome. We rented a Lamborghini, which I understand is kind of like a luxury type of thing, but
right. Tell me, did you fit in it or not?
So listen, not well at all.
Not comfortable. Not comfortable.
No, it is not designed for a 6'4" person. Like, it's funny because it's extremely low to the ground. Okay, so you have to get down basically like on your knees, and then I have to like cock my legs sideways and like basically get underneath the steering wheel. And once I'm there, I'm in an okay position, but I'm basically like sandwiched in, and I'm like, I have like a half an inch maybe to the top of the roof. So I kind of got to scrunch just a little bit, but I will tell you that car is absolutely amazing. It was the Spider Evo, and it's like a $350,000, $400,000 car or something like that. And obviously, not something that I would like to buy, but it was cool to rent for a couple of days and drive it around the mountains and the hillsides. And we found this really cool thing on Airbnb. It was a private natural hot spring location where it's in the middle of the desert, and you literally just walk out to this place in the middle of nowhere. It's like $100, and it was just what my wife and I, and we just sat in this private spring and watched the sunset over these mountains. It was absolutely incredible. So that's some really good times there. And I did not win the overall national Entrepreneur of the Year. I feel like it was a little fixed. I mean, first of all, I'm just gonna say, like, I was definitely out of my game. There's like, multi-billion-dollar companies that are up for Entrepreneur Year. There's like no chance of me obviously getting in at that point, but it was a great event. So they had like Reese Witherspoon there, and I think it was like Wayne Bradley and a few others. Really cool, black tie tux event and everything, which I'm definitely out of place there when you see that. But the winner was a CEO from Winnebago that came in like 2016, didn't even start the company or anything like that. So it was just a little weird. That was, he was the Entrepreneur of the Year, even though he wasn't the entrepreneur that started the company. The guy that should have won, in my opinion, was the guy that started Crumble Cookies.
Yes.
He talked about how he started it in just a first time shop, built it, and now he's doing over $1 billion in revenue and selling cookies. Like, that's the dude that should win.
But have you tried them? They're fucking delicious.
They're amazing. Oh yeah, Crumble cookies are amazing, and definitely not in my macros when I'm cutting. But I could go get one right now, which is great. But it's funny
Order
because like
crumbles. Order. I actually was thinking about this, so you could just order them right now. I don't know if you've watched the Joe Rogan, Elon Musk. You're like, oh, have you ever tried this pizza? And he was like, no. He's like, well, just order it. I'm like, that's the
yeah,
fucking dream. Just like, yeah, we'll just
yeah.
order it right now.
Yeah, and then they're like, let's go shoot the
Shoot
car with
the
an
truck
arrow
with
in
it.
the middle of the podcast. I'm like, these guys are insane. But no, it was funny. I mean, like I wouldn't have been. I wasn't upset. I mean, it was a great event, and I didn't think I was going to have a chance of winning, nor did I think I was going to win the regionals either. So I won regionals, didn't win the overall national one, which was totally fine. Just to be there and just to kind of see what other companies are doing was a great event. But what was really interesting is that like I would have like been super happy for that Crumble dude because he came up on stage and he got to talk about like his family and his kids and how he started it and Wayne Bradley came up and was like, dude, my kids are huge fans of Crumble cookies and this is how we like mediate fights between our kids is we buy Crumble cookies. And so he actually like did a live FaceTime with his daughter on stage, to talk like this is the CEO of Crumble cookies and it's just a really kind of special event, and I really liked it. And I was rooting for him to win. But awesome for Winnebagos too. I mean, they make amazing RVs and everything else, and know them really well, obviously from the camping scene. So it was just a cool event overall. It was like I got there Wednesday, and I flew back Sunday night. We didn't get back to like 10 o'clock at night. Like of course the baggage claim was like super slow. We're just like dragging ass and super hungover from a layover perspective, and just wanted to get home and you get that. That airplane filth on you, like the layer of like nastiness and grunginess and everything. And took a shower, laid down, and of course couldn't sleep till 4 a.m. So, that's how it goes. Yeah, great time. So woke up in the morning and did Orange Theory, and here we are today. So it was a good time. How about you, man? We haven't caught up in forever.
I know. Why did you not like Jay Shetty?
What's that?
Why did you not like Jay Shetty's presentation?
Oh, Jay Shetty. Okay, so Jay Shetty to me. Like when you're trying to motivate a large group of people, he had a bunch of people like standing up and going to different locations and like doing all these like things on a piece of paper, like try doing these dots on a paper. Like you have like 50 circles, fill them with whatever you want to. And then he would be like, well, statistically, blah, 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 we'll do just a dot. Other people will do 1, 2, 3, 4, but it didn't tie into anything. So I just thought, it's kind of just doing like these kind of skits that didn't really tie into like a meaning or a lesson. Okay. And he brought a bunch of people together. He's like, okay, well, if you're, outgoing and you're more of a social person, go to this area here. So everybody had to like stand up in the middle of this large ass room of like, 5,000 people. And like, it was just chaotic and moving around and stuff like that. I just didn't think it was really well set up. His presentation skills were awesome. And it definitely took back some tidbits and advice from it. But, I just wasn't impressed with the overall keynote. Like if you're going to go do a keynote like that, and I'm mostly on the cybersecurity side, so I don't really do motivational keynotes and things like that. I'm sure it's very difficult to go and do, but you want to have the people, one, be excited, have a lot of fun during it, laugh, and then also walk away with at least one meaningful thing that you learned from it. I just didn't feel like he hit those notes, right? Super energetic and smart, and I've listened to him before. He seemed pretty cool. I didn't realize I've listened to him on this podcast a few times. Amazing individual. I just didn't like the keynote personally.
Just didn't land for the audience.
No, but I'll tell you the one that did a great job was the guy from the CEO from Kind Foods. He's also on Shark Tank. He was really good. He was talking more on the business side, and that's Daniel Lubetsky. And he was talking more on the business side about what we have to do around growth, how we look at things and how you structure things, but more so also talked a little bit about like the demographics of what we're facing today on like heightened extremism and stuff like that across the board, and becoming more moderately focused on finding middle ground for things and trying to accomplish a better society and working more towards a better humanity. So you came out of there feeling good about yourself on trying to make the world a better place, which has obviously been my mission, but also how to apply that to business and creating a really good culture of people. And what you can do to kind of focus on that. So again, I thought that was a really good keynote. There was a couple other ones. There was a Navy SEAL. His name is escaping me. Not Jocko. That presented. Not Goggins. That presented. That was there. But the name is escaping me right now. But it was good. It was good. A good overall event. Really cool. It was Richard Davini. Rich Davini. Got a bestseller, a couple things, but It was good overall. I'm glad I'm back though. Like today's like the first day back from like a week of being in Palm Springs, which is like, just constant go, 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 hotel room, go, wake up, go out, do this, and you're out all day. And so I'm just glad to be home relaxing, and I got to get my push session in today. But I did murder the gym a bunch of times, I'll tell you that. And people were definitely taking pictures of me when I was squatting almost 500. So
All
on
of
the
the
Smith machine, I
plates
should
in the
be
gym,
precursor with.
all of the plates in the gym, you were that guy?
Literally, there was no more plates left. Like I could not. It was out of space because they're bumpers.
Yeah.
And so it was actually out of space. I couldn't put any more on. So people were taking pictures of me, like just lifting the whole gym. But I got into there. It was Saturday morning, and I was doing legs, doing full body push. And you're gonna be proud of me on this. There's two things happen. One, I went into there, and it was like literally the worst fear and nightmare of a gym. Like everybody was doing everything wrong. Like from a protocol and etiquette perspective, it was a total shit show. This one guy was on the Smith machine, and literally all he was doing was, checking out Instagram feeds, and did like 15 sets of like 2. Like he was on there for like 30 minutes. I finally went over. I'm like, dude, how many more sets you got left? He's like, oh, this is my last one. Where was my last one? So he finally got off of that. And I was able to use the Smith machine. And then there was this other dude doing like some crazy calisthenic program that was taking up like 2/3 of the open area that you do, your dumbbells at. He's like taking like 2/3 of it where you can fit like 4 or 5 people. You can only literally fit this dude doing like, a space in front that he could do is like jumping jacks and crazy jumps and stuff. Then he had a straight bar. Then he had a bench that he was using dumbbells with. So he's using like 5 different weights, like all this other stuff on the thing. I was like, son of a, this is like a night. And it was packed. I was just trying to find, like gym equipment to use. But you'd be proud of me. I actually used the adductor and abductor in a public place, in front of everybody. In front of everybody. In front of everybody.
Nice.
It was a packed gym. And by the way, it wasn't like tucked away in the corner, like away from everything. It was like literally smack dab in the middle of the gym. And I used it. I didn't even care. I'm like, at this point, I'm good to go. Like, I'm just gonna, I feel like I need to work on my stabilizers there. So I'm gonna go and do it. I don't care what anybody thinks of me. And I had just got done doing some massive to failure squats. So it was well worth it, and knocked out a really good workout. And I didn't care that, dudes were checking me out doing the adductor and abductor, saying that guy could be like, guy's using that. So
good though. I feel like that's a definite level up whenever it comes to gym. Whenever you're okay with using that adductor and abductor in public gyms, because I realize it can be hugely uncomfortable.
Well, with you, bro, I've been like 9 years.
I know. I feel like we have been MIA. And even the messages in between. You were definitely in a different time zone, and that really fucks us. Like when we're too far apart in time zones, it really fucks us relationships. Yeah. So you need to speak to all of the events that you're going to and make sure that we're not that far apart in time zones. Things good on this end, dude. I'm just continuing to take things apart and rebuild them. I don't know if I can know if I've publicly said this or put it out. I've actually going to postpone the launch of Hacks version 2. Because I think I really need to take the whole thing apart and put it back together again. So I'm putting a lot of frameworks and systems in place and going to hold that off until the new year, which is cool. Other than that, I've just been doing my work. I wrote myself a new training plan this weekend, which I sent you for approval. I actually was reminded by Todd last week, and I got him to do something similar not that long ago. And I will say this is definitely not for everybody training plan. I definitely think that you have to have some level of training skill whenever it comes to training like this. We'll talk about it a little bit whenever we get into today's topic, but I'm looking forward to it. I realized that we've got 15 weeks tomorrow until Phoenix, and I need to be as big and as scary as possible. So I thought this training plan would offer that. Aside from that, dude, things are good. Like just work stuff, business is going well. I have the additional calls in. So we had Kiera on for the first Thursday. Helmy did last week, which was cool, just to have him on to do a call with everybody. Everybody has been very receptive of it, of having some additional information on other people. This week we've got Sean, and next week we potentially have someone come on and do some mobility stuff. So all of that is finally starting to iron out. I'm putting together what is going to be the Phoenix event. I will say this, and this is a public rant for anybody who works in Topgolf. Don't just fucking assume what my plans are going to be. Like every time I email them, they're like, yeah, okay, that date suits. I'll just send you through the plan for what we discussed. I'm like, I haven't discussed anything. And that pisses me off. They've just sent me an email before I come on here. So I'm putting that together. Going to have everything finalized the end of this month. Then I'm going to New York for a couple of days. It's my birthday, and we're into Christmas and stuff like that. It's funny. I had the hacks call today, and for the longest time, I've had Thanksgiving in my head because I'm like, right, I want to make sure everybody's prepared, know what they want to achieve by then, comfortable taking a couple of days off, whatever it is. I was like, everybody's cool. And then today, someone put in their check-in about Thanksgiving. I was like, oh shit, next week? Like, where the fuck did that happen? Oh shit. But no, everything's good on this end. Zero issues whatsoever. Just trying to be super secretive about the thing that me and you have going on that we can't tell anybody. I'm really fucking struggling to do it, but that's the only thing I want to say about it. We'll not talk about it anymore.
You can't tell anybody about it. Well,
No.
not only about one thing, we got two things. We got
two
the one
secret things
planned,
that we can't talk about.
and then we got the last thing we talked about that was last week. That's also really exciting that we can't talk about.
But we're not going to talk about it. And
we can't talk about that.
like, and sometimes I'm like, there are a couple of people that I will tell just because I'm like, I want to get a bit of feedback, but I'm like, nobody is going to know. They'll know whenever they know and not a second before, but it's very hard. Yeah. And because you were so far away in time zones and I couldn't talk to you about it, I'm like sitting here like, what the fuck can you talk to someone about? But anyway,
when we were having that call, I was like, everybody's just talking and I'm like, oh wait, here's Ben. I forgot that.
I was there the whole time.
Yeah, and rocked out the whole thing. So congratulations on that. But no one knows what we're talking about, but it's going to be really cool. Everybody will know eventually
at some point
what we're talking about, and there's some exciting stuff that we have going on that will be cataclysmically huge. I think, right? Was it a good way of putting it?
Yes. Yeah. For anybody who's listening, I'm not in my head.
That's awesome, man. Well, glad you're putting it all together. I saw. I was traveling when you sent me the workout regimen, but it looked like it was one set of everything, and you just kind of like destroyed yourself to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the goal of this is basically my very, very, very first online coach, a guy called Jordan Peters, not Jordan Peterson, which I realize could be very confusing. At Trained by JP is his handle on social media. He's the biggest short guy you'll ever see in your life. Huge bodybuilder, but he put a video out about this being the most optimal training block to build muscle. I'm like, okay, right, I'm in. And this was about 6 months ago because as I have sort of gone through it, I used Todd as a bit of a guinea pig on it. Safe to say it works, but the idea is basically you train full body every other day. So it's not 4 days a week or 3 days a week or 5 days a week. It's every other day. So you have a training day and you have a rest day. Full body every day. The goal is day one, well, the way I have it programmed, day one is going to be heavy upper body. So heavy sets, lower reps, and then light lower body. So lighter weight, higher reps. Then you switch them. So day two is going to be heavy upper body, heavy lower body, light upper body. And then you cycle through them. And it's one working set of everything. So the day one for me is flat dumbbell press, one set of 6 to 10, Smith machine shoulder press, dips, lat pull down, bent over row, dumbbell lateral raise, tricep push down, bicep curls, all one set of 6 to 10. And then for lower body, it's hamstring curl, leg press, calf raise, and then I did some abs at the end, hanging leg raise, all one set of 15 to 25. And then swap that around and do the heavy stuff on the lower body on day two, which will be hamstring curl, hack squat, leg extension, glute bridge, calf raise, all one set of 6 to 10. And then upper body will be incline Smith machine, dumbbell shoulder press, seated row, single arm prone, lateral pull, cable lateral raise, long rope tricep, hammer curl, and ab machine, and all will be one set of 15 to 25. And then 2 other sets. So 4 total workouts every other day training. And if this doesn't get me big and scary, I'm done. I'm just going to quit the gym and do calisthenics like that guy in the gym you were at.
Sounds amazing. Well, I think it's
you would hate it though because it's only every other day training, and it's not like 7 days a week. It's every other day. So absolutely shit for you. Would hate it.
I would definitely do that. I definitely not like that at all. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear how the results go. But it's a kind of unique one, obviously, with kind of rotating through different muscle groups and doing kind of full body with that, and then rep ranges, obviously, depending on what you do. But that kind of leads us into the conversation today, and this is one of the ones that's always a discussion on how far do you push yourself, what does recovery look like, and what's ultimately the desirable way to maximize your time at the gym to gain as much muscle. And most people are I guess, inclined to stay within those rep ranges, right? We always talk about, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and more. And some are 10 to 12, some of them are 6 to 12. You hear these different rep ranges, and what seems to matter in all of these studies that they do is not necessarily the rep ranges, but how intense you're putting a load or volume, or close to failure as possible to your muscles. And that could be through extremely heavy lifting to failure. It could be to extremely light to failure. It could be middle of that ground to failure. Regardless, it's almost to near failure that is causing the largest amount of muscle growth that we know of today. And there's some really good studies that came out recently, and Dr. Lane Norton was talking about these on what is the biggest impact for muscle hypertrophy, or i.e. growth. And that does seem to be going to failure. So, what does that mean for your training program? And what does that mean for your rep ranges? And what does that mean for how you actively go and hit yourself at the gym? And I think a big misconception is that you're supposed to just stay within the blocks of, 4 sets, 10 to 12, and then that's it, right? You're done with your workout, and you will grow muscle that way for sure. But is it the maximum amount of muscle that you would look to incorporate? And can we look at things a little bit differently and say, well, instead of rep ranges, just go until you're done, right? So don't think about rep ranges. Now, if you're hitting 20 to 25 in a rep range and you're, fatiguing at 25 or 30, well, you need to increase the weight so that, maybe you're in the 10 to the 12 range. And you always want to kind of stay within that period. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. So, what I like to typically do for a workout, and this has been what I find most beneficial for me, is that when I start a routine, I start with a heavy compound movement for strength. So I'll do a deadlift, a squat, overhead, military press or overhead shoulder press. I'll do, a bench press or dumbbell press. These are the things that are going to be very, very high weight with low amount of volume because of the rep ranges. So I might only get 1, 2, or 3 to 5 reps in a set that I'm focusing on. And then after that, I typically decrease the weight and do back off sets to kind of burn the muscle out a little bit. And then from there, it's just attacking the muscle in different ways to get to failure. And that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish here, is that, yes, I'm overloading from a progressive overload perspective, the muscles based on the amount of weight I'm putting onto it, as well as the volume that I'm using as well, to maximize the amount of growth and strength that I'm accomplishing during these specific sets. So, what you should think of is, if your goal is strength at first, go heavy and go as hard as you can until you can't go anymore, right? Train hard. And, after that, if your goal is hypertrophy or growth, you should be training your muscles to failure in almost every set. Now, you want warm-up sets. You want to make sure you're doing, the workout appropriately. But as you start going to town on the different rep ranges and sets, you want to be able to start looking at this and say, well, let's just say I'm doing shoulder presses and I start off with 30 pounds, and it's my first set after I've warmed up a little bit. It's my first set and I can do 12 of those, but I get to 12 and I can do 15. Maybe I can do 18. You keep going until you can't do any more, right? And then you do it again. And then you do it again. And then you do it again until your muscles are extremely fatigued. But you should be trying to go to failure in almost every set to accomplish the most amount of growth that you want to see in the gym. And the issue is that you get stuck in these numbers: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, at 12, I'm good, when I could have did 15 or 20. So don't look less at the rep range and more so on how you feel from a fatigue perspective. If I can't get all the way up from a bicep curl, even half curls are good. You're still putting tension on that muscle to, even if I can't move it, I'm still fatiguing. I'm just squeezing that, last amount of glycogen out of those muscles to get it going. But I'm going to failure so that when I'm done, my muscles need to rebuild in a stronger state and volume size that I'm focusing on. And I think we get lost in the number of counts. And I see this a lot. I was at the gym just watching people, and I can count. They're doing way too light of weight, and and they stop at 10, they stop at 12, period. And then they move on to the next one. And, you look at these folks, and they've probably been training for 10 years, but they're tiny, right? and they're doing proper movements, but they stop at 10 or 12. So if you want to get the results that you want to, look to train to failure in almost every instance that you're doing at the gym. That will give you the most amount of results.
Agree. And a couple of things I'll add. Number one, we definitely do limit ourselves by having rep ranges. And I don't know if it's a psychological thing or it's like, okay, it says on this page or app or whatever, 8 to 12 or 10 to 15 or whatever. So once you hit that number, I'm like, oh, I've done my 15. That's absolutely fine. Which, yes, true. You are absolutely fine. If you've made progress and you've done one additional rep and you've hit the upper rep range and it's 15, good job. But how much are you leaving on the table? Like you said, are there 3 more reps there? Are there 7 more reps there? Or potentially 10 more reps there? Like you don't know until you really challenge yourself. Now, a couple of things that I will add. Training to failure is hard. Full stop. That's the first thing. The second thing, training intensity and training in general, like movements and exercises are and should be learned skills. So one of the best pieces of advice or things that I learned from Helmy was whenever he has clients who are like very early on in their training career, he gets them to do a lot more reps. So instead of the average, 3 times 8 to 12, he'll maybe do 4 times 10 to 15 or whatever. And the reason being isn't that it makes much of a difference in terms of what they're actually trying to achieve. The difference that it makes is they're literally putting in more reps. So they have more practice at doing that movement. So for example, if me and you started training today and it was the first day we'd ever trained, we both trained for a year and I did 3 sets of 10 of every exercise for a year and you did 4 sets of 15. So much more potential for you to learn that movement than me. Once you've nailed and really dialed in the movement, how to feel, the muscles, your contraction, what way your body should be set up, all the other bits and pieces, that's whenever you can start focus on really training to failure and really understanding what that feels like. And again, that is a learned skill. It's like, I guess we'll go back to David Goggins. It's like, he'll say that whenever you feel like you're at 100%, you're only at 40%, or insert whatever the quote is. Not for me to bastardize it, but essentially your mind will give up before your body as a sort of safety mechanism. So being able to mentally take yourself beyond that is something that you need to work on. Like it's definitely a mindset skill. And I think that that's what feeds into strong body, strong mind as a parallel, because you have to actually take yourself past the point of actually the quote unquote comfort zone or safety zone. So all of these things are learned skills. I'm not saying, okay, right, I've just listened to Ben and Dave on episode, whatever fucking episode this is. First day at the gym tomorrow, I'm going to do hack squat. I'm going to go to absolute failure and that's it. I'm like, not what we're trying to say here. It's about learning to go through the process, learn the skill of actually doing the movement, learn the skill of actually what training intensity should look like, and learn the skill of how to actually take that to failure in a safe way. The best place to start whenever it comes to training to failure is something that you feel comfortable in. Comfortable is maybe not the word, but something that you're safe in terms of like a machine, something that's like a chest press machine or a shoulder press machine or something you pull or will only move in a certain way that if you have to stop or drop it, it's not going to take your head off or completely crush you. Like something that you can actually just like stop and get out of versus trying to learn how to do it with a barbell or whatever else. And have a better understanding of what that looks like, what it takes to actually get to failure before you start to incorporate it and other things. And it is like to truly train to failure is fucking difficult. Like I would challenge quite a lot of people on their I train to failure.
Yeah, that it's interesting. You mentioned that doing the hack squat to failure. You can absolutely do that. Most of the time that we're switching different machines, one, it's not to be so bored. But 2, it's also to attack the muscle in different ways, to fatigue it, to put it in kind of a different range of motion, to make sure you're hitting all of the different types of muscle fibers that we have out there in muscle groups as we're doing things. Some things might be predominantly quad focused with some glutes and hammies. Some might be just specifically quad focused as well. So, when we're looking at different movements and exercises, it's attacking the muscle in different ways to fatigue it so that, we can get those desired results of the growth and strength and everything else that comes along with it. I
would challenge the bored thing though. When I hear this quite a lot, like people will be like 3 weeks in their training program, like, oh, I'm kind of bored. When's it changing? Yeah. I'm like, not like strap yourself in, not for a long time.
You're in this for a long. And by the way, it doesn't change that much. Like there's only so many machines and movements and exercises.
Yeah, like I'll rewrite it, but I'll just put the Monday workout on a Wednesday, and I'll maybe turn it upside down a bit. No, but I think that what happens here is they don't actually understand the benefit of actually spending time in a training block. And if you want to get stronger and you want to build muscle, it takes time. And for me, and I've said this time and time again, I know that you're the same. Like, generally I'll program 12 weeks for a workout block for a client because I know that they don't fully get it at the start, and they expect that every 12 weeks. And that's fine. I think 12 to 16 weeks is fine. For me, I'm like, that training block that I wrote this weekend, I will do for at least 6 months, like at least. And I find that at the start it'll be fine because I'll up and up the weight and it'll feel good and it'll be, fucking happy days. 2 reps on or 10 kilos on this or whatever. And it'll feel good at the start and I'll get those like ego reps. On the other side of it, when it's fucking hard and you have to grind the reps out and you're like fighting for every rep and every pound that goes on the bar, that's the part of training that I really love. It's like whenever I've spent 5 months working on something and now it actually gets really difficult because the goal is in every session to improve in either more weight or more reps in that exercise. And I'll finish the set and I'll have progressed and I'll stand up and I'll go, fuck, I have to beat that again next week. That's the bit about training that I really like. That bit right there is the bit that I really love.
Yeah, it's taking me a long time to feel different range of motions and how my muscles kind of contract and getting full range of motion to hit that muscle group. It's not something that happens overnight, and I'm still trying to improve. But my son the other day came down. He's like, "Dad, I'm doing bench press, but I don't feel it at all in my chest." I'm like, "Yes. That is right.
Sounds like you're doing bench press correctly.
Sounds like you're doing bench press correctly. That's right. It's like you're not going to notice this for a long time. It's going to take you at least a year, if not longer. And we had the one podcast about me developing a relationship with my chest. It's taking me forever, right? But now that I do, I get a nice squeeze in my chest. I can, this is again going to be a horrible sound clip here, but I was actually in the shower today and. I remember 2 years ago, I'm like feeling my chest and it's just like, a blob of just like fluff,
Mm-hmm.
and then now it's like this hard, rock that I'm feeling here. And when I'm doing my workout routines, I can feel the same thing, right? If I'm doing like a chest press with dumbbells, I can feel the full contraction of the top, especially if I'm doing inclines, the top portion of the chest, going to a full range of motion and flex. As I'm going up and down, and then the stretch component as I'm kind of coming back, on that motion, and then kind of coming back up again to drive it. And it's taking me a long time to develop that type of movement to feel what's best for that muscle to really get, range of motion, but also how do I fatigue it the most as I'm going through and doing it. And, tempo still has a major importance to this, the concentric movement of moving up fast, explosive, and then the eccentric movement of coming down slower. Eccentric being your downward movement and your strongest, by the way. Our bodies are designed to handle loads coming downward more for longer periods of time than up. And also it has the largest amount of potential for building muscle mass. So the longer we're moving in an eccentric movement, the more we can build muscle mass as we start to go through all of it. And so, it's these little things that you start to add on to your workout regimens. And it's funny because I just saw a video of Chris Bumstead's arm workout for an arm workout training day for his thing. I'm like, there's nothing there that I don't do. I'm like, that's my workout routine. I'm like, that's cool.
This motherfucker's copying my workout routine.
I'm like, Chris Bumstead's still my workout routine, which is your workout routine, really. It's funny because there might be small variations of things. I do love his, the one thing I have started incorporating that I really love is the cross cable rear delt, just kind of coming back and just slow. I mean, I think people think it's this range of motion where you're kind of coming back like this. It's really just a small.
My pet, the worst, and I will never correct. I'll just shake my head in shame. The worst thing that I see in the gym is people on the reverse pec deck. Starting here and ending up with their arms. Yeah. I'm like, I can't even get my arms.
No. That is crushing. It's tearing your shoulder. Yeah. As you're going and doing this. But second, you don't need to go back that far. I mean, if you think about your rear delt, I mean, it's this tiny muscle back here, right?
Well, certainly isn't tiny.
Yeah, mine's not tiny, but I work out all the time. But it's just coming back just a little bit to get that muscle to hit its full range of motion, and you're not coming back here, not squeezing your chest. It's really just
difficult. This is one that people struggle with quite a lot, and It's funny because anytime I say to anybody who are talking about an exercise, I'm like 99% of the time I'll tell you to pin your shoulder blades back and keep stability.
Yes.
The
100%.
one time that you don't is whenever you're doing rear delts. It's like you're doing
that's the only time you don't do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to get that, like, it's a body awareness thing, and it's funny because whenever I used to coach 1-to-1, it was always very apparent to people who had played sports or done some sort of dance or something before, because they were a lot more body aware. People who hadn't, it was like couldn't tell their left from the right. But it's like whenever you try and tell someone to like internally rotate your shoulder, right? This is what I'm saying. So this is what I'm saying. Yeah. Internally rotate your shoulders and then drive your elbows back and contract your rear delts to the point where you're not getting into your traps. Like mine are there. Anything past that, I just have to pull into my traps. Yep. Fine for me because I know what the muscle feels like. But like, I don't teach.
You try to explain to somebody that doesn't.
Yeah, but I don't teach like muscle, that. Right? But it's like that's how I think about it. So it's like, how do I get people to think about it in a different way so they can actually feel the muscle and feel it the way it should work?
And what's crazy with a lot of this too is that lifts are very complex in nature. Almost everyone is. I mean, you look at deadlift, you think, oh, I'm just picking the bar up and pulling it up. But like the length of your arms and legs, you know, the total size of yourself, your body formation, the types of shoes you're wearing, you know, the slack you put into it. You should
only ever be wearing Vans and you would not have a problem, but whatever.
Or barefoot. Thank you.
I know, but you can wear Vans on every occasion. You can't be barefoot on every occasion.
I mean, I can just do barefoot for pretty much everything. I just want to do anyway, but
not when it's minus 100 degrees and fucking snowstorm in Ohio.
I wear my shoes to get to the gym and I take them off when I get there. But you know, on the deadlift for me, you know, even as I've gotten much heavier in weights, you know, in the 550s and above, you know, I had to change how I do deadlifts to reduce the range of motion that I have and the amount of slack that I have, you know, on the bar in order for me to get more momentum as I start to pull up. So, you know, these exercises aren't the easiest to master and it takes time. And, you know, again, going from the gym this last week, you know, you just see poor body form with heavy amounts of weight. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a form, you know, critiquer in any way, shape, or form. I do think, you know, especially when you get down to those last reps, as long as you're not like yanking muscles and things like that, having some poor form, especially on like lat pull downs, for example, if you're rocking a bit more than you should. Arnold did the same thing, you know, it worked okay for him. You know, so there's certain things where, you know, kind of form can go out the window in certain cases. Like same thing for like deadlifts and like 1RMs. Yeah, you're going to have some flexing of the back. Your back's going to be a little bit, you know, bent because you're giving and taking pretty much for your entire body to hit that 90 to 100% range, you know, of percentage for your power. You know, it's going to give and take in certain cases, especially as you get to final sets. When I'm doing bicep curls and I'm getting those last sets, especially I'm using like BFRs, you know, I might only do half reps and I'm rocking my body to get them up because I'm squeezing the last amount of glycogen. I mean, it looks like shit. But
you've done 12 and 4 half reps.
Yeah. Listen, I'm 100 reps into my freaking bicep curls here. Okay, like you have good form then too. Okay, you know, yeah, I can go down to 3 pounds, but I'm not going to do it because I'm going to look like a total bitch. But you know, I'm going to keep that 10 pounds of sanity that I still have there. You know, as I'm going and doing it. But you know, obviously I jest on the weights, but you know, as you're doing these, think about it from a perspective of I shouldn't be able to do any more. And I should feel those muscles be extremely exhausted. I should feel them start to ache, not hurt, not in a painful way. But you know, when you get a really good leg exercise and you can barely walk up the steps, that's how you should feel when you leave with your biceps and your back, with, you know, your shoulders. They should be exhausted. I'll tell you, I'll sit there at the very end of a workout on shoulders
and text me. And like, fuck this.
But I'll just sit there and do lat raises and I'll sit there. I might do 6 or 7 sets just to get the last amount on. And I might only be on like the 10 pounds and I'm going up and I'm burning for like 6 of them, but I'm just trying to get the last amount I possibly can, you know, out of those just to get that last little tweak of muscle growth that I could potentially get out of that. I think it's, again, my biggest fear. I've said this, you know, 1,000 times in this, podcast, but is going to the gym and not being able to get larger, right? You know, doing the same thing over and over again, not seeing the results. And results to me, you know, are like one of the only things that we really have in this journey to show some sort of consistency. And while it might be short or it might take a while to get there, you know, you still want to be able to see yourself getting stronger, physique changes, ability to eat more food and not gain as much weight, which we got to talk about that. I'm struggling eating so much food and I'm only up like a pound. It's driving me nuts. I eat like total garbage the entire time I was there. And I would say garbage. I mean, I was eating full steaks, but I was eating all the time. I was just full all the time. And I lost 2 pounds. Like I just got to figure out how to eat more food. But good problem to have, I guess.
You just eat more food. Like
I'm trying, man. I'm eating all the time now. I'm eating
You're
all
not trying
the
enough.
time.
You need to try harder.
My stomach hurts so
it's
much.
Like, I used to have this girl. I used to coach, Denise, and she was absolutely hilarious. And we had a bit of a like, we'd always banter with each other relationship. And she used to come in, she's like, I just can't hit my protein goal. Like I just can't get there. And I'm like, okay, right. What's the goal? She was like 130 grams or whatever. And I was like, what are you getting? And she was like 100 grams. And I was like, right, okay. If I told you to run 1,000 meters and you got the 700, what would you do? She was like, I would just run the last 300. I was like, right, just eat the last 30 fucking grams of protein. The same with you and your calories. Like if you get the 3,500.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying to figure out other things that are just like high in caloric intake that aren't horrible for me, but it's a lot.
You need to try harder. Sounds like an excuse.
Yeah.
Just think to yourself, what would Helmy do?
Helmy would eat.
He would eat all the food.
Yeah,
he would eat all the food.
You're right. So I gotta get a what would Helmy do wristband and just suck it up and eat it. So
yeah.
But 2 things I wanted to hit on too is I was actually listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and he had a pretty interesting doctor on the show that I learned something new that I hadn't heard about before, and it was with Gary Brecka. He's a human biologist and co-founder of 10X Health, and they focus on longevity, which is obviously like right in my wheel spot of what I focus on. And he's I mean, I've seen him present a ton of times. I mean, I've seen his website. I've seen some of the things he reps and everything. So I mean, pretty well acclaimed individual. What I thought was interesting with him and what he was talking about was, and this is something that I wasn't aware of, is that in most of the U.S. specifically, we spray all of our crops and add to our foods folic acid, and 44% of the population can't digest or convert folic acid to natural enzymes that we need in our bodies or natural vitamins in our bodies. And so it creates this like issue that we see with like they're linking it to ADHD and brain fog and energy levels and everything else, as well as like longevity issues and stuff like that. And so, what he was talking about was, how folic acid really is also related towards the shortening of our blood vessels, causing hypertension and high blood pressure. And the medical industry basically tackles that with like statins and ways to reduce blood pressure when it's really a narrowing of the blood vessels because of the folic acid impact that we have in here. And so I was looking through a lot of the food that I eat, and man, it is a lot of folic acid.
I'm just going to say it straight up. The stuff that you guys do to your food in America is fucked up.
It is really fucked up. And like, I'm pretty sure it's banned like across the globe, except obviously here. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. I had a call with a guy already.
We only started doing this in the 90s where we started spraying all of the crops with folic acid. And so, it's so what they did recommend, what he did recommend is one, you can do genetic testing to see whether or not you have the ability to convert folic acid. But he also said that there's like a supplement you can take, which I found out I was taking for a long time. So I take every day, which is fantastic. So of course I take it. But it's homocysteine support. And it uses a different type of folic acid that our bodies just naturally convert. It's methionine and cysteine, as well as a couple other ones that basically, and I think there's an acronym is like TMG or TRG. I'll have to like check it out, but those combinations are things that can reduce like ADHD in kids. And he was saying that like most parents think that their kids in the morning are just like all cracked up on sugar because they had a Pop-Tart, but that Pop-Tart is completely packed with folic acid and they can't digest it. And it's like cocaine to the body, basically, of what is actually, impacting them. And so like by substituting or putting in the, just a little bit of these additional supplements, you have the ability to really address some of the major problems that we have with all this folic acid being in our bodies. But they said if it is organic, you don't have that folic acid addition to it, which is good. And so, yeah, interesting thing that I had no idea about on the whole folic acid, I guess, dilemma or problem that we're seeing in this industry. But definitely something you should take a look at on the folic acid side to see if you have any sensitivities to that, or maybe think about doing a homocysteine support type of thing that will help alleviate some of the things that we do to hear our products,
or just leave America.
that too.
I actually had a call today with a guy, right, who moved. I'll not say specifically, but he moved from America to a place in South America. We were having a bit of a back and forth conversation about like lifestyle differences and whatever else. And he'd been going back and forward for a long time. And he always noticed that he felt better and he lost weight whenever he was away. And the thing that we came down to was number one, the quality of the food, and number two, it comes back to the whole foods thing. So like he lived probably like typical, not out of the norm, not in huge extremes, but just like at regular food that you can buy in the store in America, versus would have to go to like a butcher's or like a fruit and veg shop or like a local shop to get his food whenever he's in where he lives now in South America. And it literally comes down to just the quality of the food that he's consuming. Nothing else has real. Well, obviously where he lives has changed, but like he didn't change, hasn't ever tracked his calories. The only difference is his environment and where he is in terms of the food and the quality he eats. And it comes back to what we've been talking about in terms of like whole foods and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine some of the stuff that goes on in terms of the food. And even I remember some of them like crazy documentaries and everybody over here is losing their mind. I'm like, we don't do that stuff to our food over here. Like, we're good.
Well, what's interesting is, so they noticed during COVID, and they put direct correlations. There's multiple studies out on this through NIH, and they showed a direct linkage with the added folic acid to society and supplementation of that to direct increased mortality rates and chances of getting COVID-19. So because of the substitution of folic acid and high dosages of it, there's direct correlation and causation studies, multiple clinical studies showing that it has a higher rate of mortality. And this was actually a UK study. This is from Pharmacy Times, but individuals in the UK taking folic acid were 1.5 times more likely to contract COVID-19 and 2.6 more times likely to die from the disease, according to the results of the study from UC Davis Health and University of Alabama in Birmingham. We examined whether COVID-19 diagnosis and death were related to large doses of folic acid, 5 times the safer upper limit prescribed to patients for a variety of medical approved indications. We found that the risk of becoming infected and dying from COVID-19 was significantly greater in the group treated with folic acid. So, again, we're pumping this into everything, and folic acid's like, and they use different terms like heavily enriched, that don't necessarily say folic acid, but folic acid is pretty much in everything that we take, unfortunately, in here, unless you're getting the organic labels or really checking what you get. You got to be really careful with what you're eating here in the States, unfortunately. But substitution of folates is not a bad thing. So folates are a good thing. TMG, good thing. So the homocysteine supplementation stuff seems to be really good for at least reduction of cardiovascular risk, as well as a lot of other issues like around behavioral disorders like ADHD and stuff like that could definitely help. I'm not saying alleviate, but can definitely help.
I mean, the thing about it is to take all this back down. Like I see all the time on Instagram, people like in the supermarkets, like lifting food and completely demonizing food and all this shit. I'm like, while I'm telling everybody to like be mindful and make better choices, I'm not like, I don't want to, it's not scare tactics to like, don't eat this and don't eat that. Like do your own research, read the fucking packet, do whatever you want. But it's just crazy to think that it all happens and goes completely under the radar. Like I'm not trying to be, can't remember the guy's name that's then he's like, oh, I'm in Chick-fil-A here and, there's 327 different types of oil in this. I'm like, I don't give a shit. It's delicious. I don't eat it all the time. Like, but it is, it is delicious. But yeah, I just think it is worth looking into, but also like, I wouldn't want to cause another stress in anybody's life to worry about these things at the same time.
Yep. And the last thing I want to cover before we wrap up this podcast, which is, by the way, was a great podcast. One of my probably better ones I think that we've had in a long time. Just
since we haven't recorded one in a couple of weeks.
Oh, we haven't had recorded one in a long time. But second,
that's one we've recorded this month.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's a good podcast amount of data we put into this. the next one is I'm experimenting with a new peptide that I wanted to share. And there's some good data on this, and I'm curious to see the results. I actually just started today. There's some really good clinical studies, as well as there was a study back in October 2022 from NIH. And this is the, what is it called? Oh, MOTS-C, the most recent mitochondrial derived peptide in human aging and age-related diseases. So, one of the big markets right now is longevity. So NAD, NNM, NR being one of the bigger ones. Rapamycin, are also called Sirmolis. There's some of the leading kind of longevity drugs. We talked a little bit about metformin, and it's, I think it was on the last podcast. If not, metformin has some protective neurodegenerative properties where it helps prevent things like Alzheimer's and dementia, as well as its potential increased longevity impact by blunting glucose spikes. So there's a few different things that are out there today, from research that have promising areas on longevity. But again, there's not a lot of long-term studies on this. We can tell by speeding up the age of mice, but mice don't always correlate directly to humans. And this one's been around for, I think since like 1995, but it's only been studied in mice, and they've recently been bridging it over to humans for clinical trials. And what they found was MOTS-C, which is a 16 amino acid mitochondrial derived peptide, is encoded from the 12S RNA region of the mitochondria genome. Under stress conditions, MOTS-C translocates to the nucleus, where it regulates a wide range of genes in response to metabolic dysfunction. And it is coagulized to mitochondria in various tissue and is found in plasma, but the levels decline with age. Since MOTS-C has important cellular functions as well as possible hormonal levels, has been shown to have beneficial effects on age-related diseases, including diabetes, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, which osteoporosis and cardiovascular disease, two leading causes of death, post-menopause, obesity, and Alzheimer's. Aging is characterized by the gradual loss of mitochondrial metabolic balance, decreased muscle hemostasis, and eventual diminished physical capabilities, which potentially can be reversed with MOTS-C treatment. This review examines the latest findings on biological effects of MOTS-C as a nuclear regulatory peptide and focuses on the roles of MOTS-C in aging, age-related disorders, including mechanisms of action of therapeutic potential. And what I really liked about the study is they broke down what the study actually found based off all the data. And there's a figure here. It's figure 4. And you can go back and look at the direct studies that correlate to all of these, as well as the human studies in this. But just from the figure 4, it says skin aging. MOTS-C improves skin aging by increasing skin collagen following IL-6 downregulation. Muscular hemostasis. MOTS-C regulates hemostasis via adjusting the activity of AMPK, SIRT1, and PGC1 alpha. Diabetes. MOTS-C reduces glutathione, which reduces oxidative stress and increases cellular stress tolerance. Alzheimer's disease. MOTS-C increases AMPK phosphorylation while decreasing the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Cardiovascular disease. MOTS-C prevents endothelial dysfunction and vascular calcification via blocking of the AMPK pathway. And osteoporosis. MOTS-C increases bone density by inhibiting osteoclasts production in the AMPK-dependent manner. I mean, all these studies seem to be indicating MOTS-C is probably one of the most beneficial, peptides that we can really start to look at from a longevity perspective. Now, again, much more studies need to be, proven with it, but I will report back. I have.
You're doing the study yourself?
I'm doing the study myself. Appears in every way, shape, or form safe to humans. There's been a lot of clinical testing on that. But it's a 4-week dose, and it's a 10 milligram per dose. So 1 milliliter, 10 milligram dose for 4 weeks. So we'll report back any benefits of that. But I thought it was an interesting study that seems to be one of the more, I would say, promising longevity peptides we might have found so far.
Nice, cool. And I appreciate that we actually do the stuff ourselves. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not just reading a study and whatever. Like, we'll be able to give you actual real world. This is how I felt. This is what changed. That was no good. It was good. We'd recommend, wouldn't recommend, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
the eternal experiment.
this thing that we call our human lives one big massive
Experiment.
YOLO experiment. So yeah. Well, appreciate everybody tuning into this week's podcast. Hopefully you learned a lot on rep ranges, muscle hypertrophy, muscle growth, folic acid, and MOSI. But tune in again next week for another one, and we'll chat with you soon. Thanks all.
See you next week.